I've made some questionable, bad, and even terrible builds in my day, but the worst is something that I'm hoping to make today because I want to have the scientifically worst build possible, and I've picked out this spot in my decade-old forever world which will be the perfect place to put it. This obviously seems like it's a impossible task because how can you ever have the worst Minecraft build? Taste is subjective and ever-changing, and there's no book you can just pull from, but I'm going to use the scientific method to help you understand how I arrived at this as the worst Minecraft build imaginable. So step 1 of the scientific method is observation. Observation would tell us that even though you can't objectively measure quality and say that this build is terrible and that this one is great, hypothetically, you can measure these two things next to each other and say that one is worse and one is better. You might give all sorts of reasons, but there is a relatively measurable quality, and also there are people who are known for their building talents. These people must know some techniques that make them better builders in the eyes of many, and so there are techniques you can learn to be a good builder. There is a relatively measurable quality, but also if we look at great builds from the internet, you'll notice they use certain block palettes more than others, and so our observations tell us that good builds exist in some form. It's hard to measure, but there are things that make a build pretty, and so we can flip all of those on their head, and we can ask the question, how to make a build that breaks all of the rules and therefore is as ugly as possible? My hypothesis, therefore, is can we make a build that is ugly to the largest number of people who see it, which is to say, the ugliest build in Minecraft? Can we make something that is so terrible that almost everyone who sees this before image of our biome wants us to immediately turn it back because of just how bad it is? Well, we're going to have to do some research into each of these 3 categories to work out how to be as good a builder as possible so we can be a bad builder. Okay, as much as I'd love to immediately take my ugly shulker box and fill it with ugly blocks, I have to first consider what prediction am I going to make for this experiment. I need some way to measure the result right, and my prediction is that I will have a build that's not just jaw-droppingly ugly enough to make, I don't know, a thumbnail from or whatever, but also that I can share on a Discord server or with the people in my friends and family, and they'll look at and say, why did you even make that? So, of course, now we need to move on to step 5, the experiment. The time has arrived for the experiment. I need to build this ugly house, but I need to know 2 crucial details before I can. The first of those is which blocks should we use, and the second is what techniques should we go for. So working out the best blocks in Minecraft is really easy. There are so many threads talking about this. There's even research, such as my video from 9 years ago, where I asked thousands of people what their favorite blocks were, and the top 5 is interesting. It seems to be quartz blocks, followed by prismarine, followed by diamond, of all things, then followed by prismarine brick, with finally the sea lantern being the prettiest blocks in the game. So I think I need to make sure I don't use these 5, but trying to rule out blocks this way is very hard, and so instead what I've done is I've done some research on what people seem to think are the ugliest blocks. I've gone into lots of Reddit threads where I found people criticizing the blocks they think look worse than a build, and some of the key contenders are sponges, birch logs, and magenta glazed terracotta, as well as tough blocks, sponge blocks once more, gravel, as well as any of the mineral blocks because children use them on creative servers. We also have granite. Okay, that's a good one. Diorite isn't too bad, but granite is. And then finally here we have someone mentioning jack-o'-lanterns, as well as the idea of having lava fences and glass panels with diorite floors. So in other words, diorite and granite are very high up there, alongside tuff, alongside glazed terracotta, birch logs, and sponges. These are some of the blocks we need to use, with maybe a bit of a mineral blocks. I think diamonds are not the best of use, because clearly some people think they're great, but maybe the emerald block, I don't think anyone's really praising the emerald block, so what if we go ahead and we say that emerald blocks, diorite, granite, sponges, tough blocks, and some of the pure logs by themselves, the ugliest ones, birch and jungle, should be the basis of our build. Okay, easy. We'll get some of those resources, and then how are we going to arrange them? I think we could take the worst resources in the game, and if we arrange them too nicely, people might actually like the end result, and so what is our solution to that? Well, I'm going to watch a building tutorial. The most popular one on YouTube is this one from Green, how to go from noob to pro in Minecraft. I'm going to watch this video, and I'm going to take note of everything he says to do, so I can specifically do the opposite, or at least not do it. So let's go.
What I want to show you first of all is kind of how not to build when it comes to shape.
Oh,
and I want
perfect.
to show you the problems with dealing with a singular large block like I have here.
Singular large block.
You need to have a decent shape planned out before you even get started.
Okay, don't plan a shape. no shapes.
The wider it is, the taller that the roof has to go to meet in the middle. And that's exactly what we don't want.
Wide build, tall roof. Heck yeah, I'm loving this. Yeah, I think it has to be said that when you make a good shape, you make a better house. So it's very clear we need to not do that, or it might end up looking like this. Okay, he said mixing and matching is a really good idea, specifically referring to slabs and steep drops. So deliberately only have slab roof. Don't mix it with anything else.
Color choice and the block choice really make this build what it is.
Color choice and block choice are very important.
It's really important when you are going over your style to really think about what palette you are going to use.
Okay, really think about what palette you're going to use. Don't think about the palette. Don't think about it at all. Specifically, try to mission match as much as we can.
I do not recommend spamming slabs to fill space.
Spam slabs to fill space. Okay, so there is a point where we can over-detail to the point where we'll make it distracting. And hopefully if we over-detail enough, it'll be distractingly ugly. Okay, so this was a great building tutorial. I don't know if anyone's watched it this way before, but we can use this to our advantage. Okay, I have the block palette, I have the building techniques, now I need to go and get those blocks and start assembling them. Let's go. The time has come for the build part of the experiment, and so I come to my very ugly land. There's good reasons for this, they were going to be up in the sky, but I'm in the very ugly land with my shopping cart filled with, indeed, all of the ugly blocks from across my world, and now we're going to start with an important part of any build that's going to use a lot of blocks. This is an important pro tip for any build. Pro tip, make sure you place down one of each of them first somewhere. This has lots of valuable benefits, but one of the biggest ones is being able to pick block for your inventory much easier. Some people find it to be a whole pain to organize, 2 or 3 inventory stacks, and so you can either temporarily reorganize your inventory to remove your shovel and replace it with granite, or you can make just a few building spots and use pick block to move between them. This is something which is incredibly handy, especially for controller players where using a cursor is a bit of a pain, and so, pro tip, having one of these walls somewhere, even if it's entirely decorative, would be useful. However, I don't think it's going to be entirely decorative, because I'm going to build another one of those walls just over here now. The goal here is simple. I simply want to make sure that I have as wide of a house space as possible, because this is where we're going to start, but we need to place a lot more blocks. Now, one of the most important things that I consider is that I am trying to build a singular large shape. I think square is going to be nice, or rather a rectangle, because a square would be too perfect, but I'm going to have to be very careful to make sure I don't think too much about the block palette. If I think too hard about, like, ooh, don't have too many of these blocks next to each other, it might accidentally become modern art, so I need to make sure that I'm not doing that, and I'm specifically just kind of layering down whatever feels good when it feels good. This is going to be a pure vibes-based house in many ways, but by doing it in the most vibey way possible, where I literally am just kind of layering the blocks as they go, we're hopefully going to make something which is more than a bit special. So, as you can see, we've got a very good start on this pillar, and now we need to do something similar over there. By the way, some people think that not having an interior is the worst way that you can build, but I'm hoping I can prove them wrong today. So, let's get building, and let me show you what I get up to on this day. It's funny because I thought this would literally feel like finger painting, where I'm just doing what is fun in a moment, but there is something scary about building something like this and trying to zone out too much, because you're like, no, if I zone out too much, I might accidentally make a pattern or something that has like real value. I have to make sure I'm specifically not doing that. It is hard to be programmed in such a way, but you better believe I think it's going to be worth it. So now I have some birch logs over here, with some gravel and some granite on top. Throw another birch log, but sideways over there. We're really thinking about every possibility here. I'll make sure this one is stripped just for a little bit of extra quality. And indeed, just to break up this, we'll strip that one too. Yeah, that's... You can see, like, the randomness and the slightly bigger blobs makes you feel like you're not accidentally achieving an art project, which is important because art has value, and we want to make sure this has none. As the sun sets on day 6776, allow me to share with you what we're looking like so far. I want to be very clear that I've done a very good job on making this weird shape that is far too wide, but I've made sure not to plan it too much and accidentally have done something I think is great, because now when I want to throw the roof on it, it's going to start from uneven sides. I thought I was making it evenly, but by not paying too much attention, I've done something great. I've also noticed, while using a bit too much tuff, I've actually made, if you look at the mosaic bits where there's a random amount of all resources, I think it actually looks a little bit better than these ugly bits where there's like tough as like weird cement filler. I think having a way to glue these individual pieces together makes it look uglier than if I go for, a mosaic is beautiful, it's art, whereas, a bunch of ugly buildings stuck together with tuff, I think that is really, really ugly, and I like the way that it's worked so far. Also, if you're curious about my functional interior, here's what it looks like. One day this will be the world's most useful inside of a house. But for now, people who claim the fletching table as a use, what's the use for my house? Tell me what I can do with this. Oh, are you wrong about the fletching table having a use? You just like being a contrarian? Well, same. Anyway, today, it's going to be roof day, which might require some more tuff, honestly. Okay, 3 very similar yet different blocks. I'm going to be using these in a fairly random fashion to build this roof, and hopefully it doesn't look too put together. I am sort of considering my block palette right now, which is why I need to throw myself off every now and then and just randomly remove one of them. But yeah, while we build this roof, I actually want to talk about something, which I guess I've realized recently. It's a really useful piece of advice, I think, though, for anyone watching this, because if you have ever, really feared something for the future, one of the most useful things to realize is you're not actually fearing the future, necessarily, directly at least. What you're actually probably fearing is, that you're looking in the wrong direction. You should probably be fearing something that has already happened in the past. And I think that one of the ways that this applies to my Minecraft world is I've kind of realized recently that I have this, strange, bizarre fear that, oh yeah, I'm going to design some things that are going to be really, really bad. I sometimes look at a finished project and I go, why did I make this? What was I even thinking when this came together? But the truth is that actually I've had way more fun making some ugly stuff in my world than I've ever had making some of the best stuff. I think that when you go purely for outcome based in a fun video game, there are situations where you do want outcome based for sure, but when you do that inside of your fun video game, I think you can take some of the fun away from yourself without even realizing that that's what you're doing. And it's something I've kind of realized recently that, yeah, actually, there are so many times where it's more fun to build something that is worse. To build a vision from inside your head, even when it comes out terribly, you feel really satisfied with the process, usually, and you at least I find myself enjoying the process. And I think that that's something that I just haven't really been considering properly on an external basis. So let's now cover this with some blocks, put some of these in here. By the way, here's a weird sound apparently everyone knows but me. Did you know when you double slab and it becomes a full block, it makes this noise? I didn't know that. The cool thing about Minecraft is it always is a game where there's so much to learn, and if anyone ever tries to convince you that they know everything, that they are an expert, and that you have done something terrible because they know, the truth is they're probably projecting their own insecurities about a time that has happened to them. Like many things that have happened in life, it's basically, something happens to someone, and then they worry about that happening to them again so much that they allow it to happen to someone else. And I think the most important thing about Minecraft is to realize you never have to let that happen to you. You never have to be at a point where you let something that you've enjoyed become invalidated by someone else's feelings on it. Okay, I'm going to now flip the stairs around and then put that one that way, and then this one on top of it that way. Again, just making sure that we make this nice, tall, wide build up here. Hopefully this is going to come into a very nice fashion when it's done. But let's actually take a peek at where we've gotten in that time. Oh yeah, this is nice. This is real nice how it is right now. Actually, maybe I think I've got an idea. Okay, so do you see how I've been leaving the column above the door empty so far? What if I just did that the entire way up the building and made that the meeting point? I kind of love this. Okay, honestly, yeah. I think that maybe I should consider putting one block up there. But I also like the idea of there just being a random slice missing of the build. Like a random piece of infuriation. So here's what we've got so far for the front. As you can see, it's honestly looking a bit too shaped in my opinion. Something we can hopefully fix when it comes to the sides, which are up next. We have just a little bit left of these to finish, and the back, and then we'll be in a good place, I think. Yeah, I've got to say that without a doubt, this is one of the weirdest ways to build in Minecraft, to kind of just like try and place as randomly as you can. Get as close to turning your brain into a into a computer that doesn't understand reason or logic, so that you can do your best at building something which defies both. But I think it is slowly but surely coming together. You know what, as the night starts on this day, one that I didn't appreciate should be such a lucky one, that's 3 sevens right there, I have just one wish for tomorrow, and that is that I can make a house that is immediately repulsive. Okay, we have basically finished the house besides the back wall, and if we're being entirely honest with ourselves, does the house actually need a back wall? Or do you think this adds to the beauty of it? But anyway, I've been looking at the criteria and I've used every single ugly build and then some to make this, so I've done a good job on that so far, but I haven't actually paid attention to every single one of these building tips that I learned. Sure, I haven't planned a shape, sure it's a singular large block blob thing, and it's got a wide build of a tall roof. However, I haven't spammed slabs or made a slab roof or over-detailed and distracted from the beauty itself. I need people to focus on the weird slabs and not on the main build, and I also need to make the roof out of slabs. How can I do that with a roof already constructed? Well, let me show you. My biggest regret in life is that you can't have coal or slabs, but we'll work with what we do have, because we're going to detail just on the inside for a few blocks here. Just, you know, randomly place a few blocks and slabs here, and then after a few of these, we'll move to the outside. That's because this empty space here, being left entirely empty, it might look like I just didn't want to put something there, but by deliberately having a bunch of different blocks and slabs, all kind of messying up the place, I think we get a much better appearance, which is exactly what we're going for. And then, this slab roof is something we can finally bring to fruition by placing our slabs all the way through here, and then maybe even, yeah, you know, actually, this is good enough. Just randomly place some blocks and slabs all over until we have our beautiful and complete slab roof. Boom, beautiful. In fact, yeah, I think the only thing missing now to make this really feel like a complete build is we do need to connect the ceiling to the floor in at least one point back here. So what's the, I'll grab some blocks, some of the most beautiful blocks that I have, and then I think I'll just start placing them upwards from roughly the doorway, actually. We'll go here and there, and then here and there, and then here and here and there and there and there, and you know, this is exactly what a house needs, I think. Just meticulous planning in every single block. Just kidding, it's the opposite. But yeah, more seriously, as we finish up the house here, I do want to mention that I've been kind of realizing recently that some of the builds in my world, which are some of the worst, bring me the most joy, especially in reflection. And I think it's something that is really going to guide my direction forwards in this world with regards to, like, what do I actually enjoy building and not. A lot of it is going to be basically coming from that. Also, there's already a block above me. Bit of a mistake, but we can just build the blocks here. Boom, wonderful. We have done something truly excellent today, and I can't wait to see how we are rewarded for this. Wow, that is a roof, and now this is my start, but covered in slab. Oh yeah, those slabs, they are definitely distracting you, right? The empty hole, you wondered what's going on here? But the slabs, they do something else entirely. Now I would only say the most distracting piece of this corner right here, I think we need like 2 or 3 random blocks in there, just to make it clear that I didn't accidentally start using only 2 blocks. On the way, I'll of course place some unnecessary detailing on the front of the house, just to make sure people know exactly what's going on here. And yeah, let's now just remove some of these blocks and put something else there in their place. I think a sponge is a classic example. We could even throw a shulker box down, or you know, actually, a chest. I think is exactly what that space there needs. I think that a chest is the thing that will turn that from being a there we go. Now it's not a particular collection of blocks. It is my sponge chest redstone. Yeah, there we go. Now, honestly, I think that has changed things drastically, and now I think we've done a really good job at distracting people. I think we could always be placing more blocks and more detailing, but I think that we might eventually hit a critical mass where we accidentally make it look better because it looks like it had more effort involved. I think we have to be very, very careful to not do that, and I think we've done a decent job with the build in its current form, so let's do a fun F1 view and zoom and center. Oh yeah, isn't this something? One of my biggest mistakes I always do is when I do this in survival, there's view bobbing on, which kind of takes away from some of the beauty, I think. But I think that with a build this wonderful, you just immediately see it regardless of the camera angles. You can immediately appreciate all of the love and care that went into making this one of the best builds in my Minecraft world. And I think that honestly, no one could disagree with this. But now that the experiment has been conducted and the results have come in, it's important to analyze both of those in the form of the build itself and in form of the comments that I got from everyone on my these are people on my team, by the way. So you'd figure they'd be extra nice to to me as a result. But what we got is Funky from KMB. This is a very nice comment. We've got Damn from Zav Savvy. Is this build a QR code? Agent Mindstorm says, I think Toycat is an Enderman in disguise. And Dasher says that one chiseled deep slate block is how I feel right now. And, you know, okay, totally see it. Chantal says this is not as bad as some of the builds in your world, I guess. Whereas Harrison says, I'm sorry your world got corrupted. You know, between that and the Enderman comment, you can really see it, right? Like, this doesn't look like something that a human would actually choose to build. And that is the beauty in it. You can tell that it's not quite a malfunction, but you know that an Enderman definitely designed this house. And so then we've got Ash saying, Toycat manages to prevent 100% of housefire casualties by making something no one would ever want to live in, yet everyone wants to burn down. And Naito says, you know how parents want you to react to their ugly baby, but you don't want to be mean, so you say the baby looks cozy or happy? This build looks cozy and happy. Oh, thank you. I mean, look, it's got a face on it. It's not a very cozy or happy face. Seriously, though, looking at this back, I do think that this is something that is wonderful and beautiful, and probably the perfect place to place my last lodestone that I'll ever be making out of netherite, by the way. I think this is a truly beautiful part of the world, but beautiful in the sense that, you know, yeah, the child is beautiful, a baby being born is beautiful, or, I don't know, the same way that a banana on the ground is beautiful. I'm glad that this exists, but I think I'm going to leave it behind now as we move into the next step. Hydrogen bomb versus coughing baby. I don't know what that meme means, but I like it. So now it's time to conclude, and I would have to say that honestly, I loved the process of making this. I think there's a lot of, tiny places where we could have pushed the definition of what is a build, what is a house. If we'd have used fewer blocks and left more holes, would it have been better or worse? I think there are lots of questions that we could certainly ask that could have led us to a much worse result. And I think there's something fun about the moment you finish a project like this, having to wonder, is there a way you could have done that better or worse? These are the thoughts that sometimes will keep me up at night, but also these are the thoughts I can use if I ever need to design something terrible. I now have this knowledge, and I know that if I were to evaluate my performance here, I would say, yeah, I think I built something very ugly and very impractical, and just like the Riptide Trident, ugly and impractical doesn't necessarily mean that it's the worst part of my world, and I think that actually it's kind of beautiful because it is ugly, and I actually really, really love it as a result of that. But the final step of the scientific process apparently is communication, and so I think actually this entire video did precisely that. I hope you have all enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed this little glance into how I have made a project in my forever world, because ultimately I'm looking forward to turning off the filters of, oh god, what if people think my build is bad, and oh god, what if people don't love this, and ultimately I'm just going to start building some of the things I really enjoy. There are so many things that I've been worried about because I'm scared about what people will think about the end result, like my recycled trial chamber. I destroyed the entire thing, it's in chests, but I'm worried about moving it. What if I just ignore that worry and move forwards, take from my own advice, and just actually do something? I think that's what I'm going to do, and so that is how I made the worst build possible in Minecraft, but it encouraged me to do so much more, and hopefully it does for you too. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye!